Don't you hate when you get foods in your teeth? Especially if you have food in your teeth at a Bible study. Because these are the people that you're going to be with in the most vulnerable and spiritual state ever. I know that made no sense to what we're going to talk about. I'm going from food in my teeth to Revelation 13. Yeah, 13, right? Yep. We're doing Revelation 13. So get your coffee, get your food, because you can have food in your teeth, I wouldn't know. And let's get it. Alright, let's see here. Hey! My tissue box is making shade over my notes. I can't see it. There's shadows over my stuff. Alright. We are starting with good old Revelation 13, 1 through 4. Taking a deep breath before I read this. Then I stood on the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast coming up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his horns 10 crowns, and on his heads a blasphemous name. Now the beast which I saw was like a leopard. His feet were like the feet of a bear, and his mouth like the mouth of a lion. The dragon gave him his power, his throne, and his great authority. And I saw on one of his heads, as it has been mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world marveled and followed the beast. So they worshipped the dragon, who gave authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, wait, did I go too far? Let me read it. No, I didn't. Saying, who is like the beast, who is able to make war with him? Sand, sea, a supposed sea monster, a dragon, 7 heads, 10 horns, crowns. It's not literal. There's no way. This is spiritual. What's going on in the heavenlies and the images of what the heavenlies provide for John shall be explained. It's symbolism. The little horn is the man of lawlessness and is the beast. They are all synonymous to the Antichrist, a man who will rise up from the sea of people. In this instance, sea means people. In other areas of the Bible, there are times where sea means people. And sea also is in the Hebrew for chaos. The chaos of the people and the chaos of the world. Up rises the beast. But that John was standing on sand. What the heck's up with that? You explain what sea means. What does sand mean? I think the sand is just to point to the sea being the people. I think they're just trying to connect it to like the nautical metaphor. Antichrist rises is basically what's up. Here, 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 crowns. What the heckity hoo is going on? Okay, I got the notes here. 7 heads are 7 powers or 7 kingdoms of people. Whether or not that's like alliances of multiple countries into one organizational group and there's just 7 of them, or there's just a complete amount of kingdoms, nations of people, because 7 doesn't necessarily mean it's like there's just 7 countries or 7 organizations left on the earth. It could just mean a complete set of powers. And then we have 10 heads. 10 horns and 10 crowns. Nations and kings. Obviously, the crowns are some type of authoritative leader. I don't know, I just did the finger on my head. That was funny, though. 10 types of leaders and 10 nations. See what I said? The 7 doesn't necessarily mean 7 kingdoms. It could just be a complete set of organizations or authorities that are part of the beast system, which is the religious system that demands worship to Satan, the false prophet, and the Antichrist, and demands political authority over the planet, which is pretty nuts considering the planet's huge. Alright, we got Revelation 13, 5 through 10. And it's easy to find because it's the start of a new paragraph. And he was given a mouth, speaking great things and blasphemies, and he was given authority to continue to 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name. His tabernacle and throne will dwell in heaven. Well, yeah, blaspheming all that stuff. It is granted to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. All who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life. Of course not. Of the Lamb who was slain from the foundations of the world. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. He who leads into captivity will go into captivity. He who kills by the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. And then the next section begins. Ooh, did y'all hear that last part? Let me read it again and see if you can think of someone specific. If anyone has ears, let him hear. He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills by the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Anybody thinking of a certain disciple that inserts foot here who cut off a soldier's ear, and Jesus is like, ooh, you better put away your sword. He who kills by the sword shall be killed by the sword. And on other parables and teachings, Jesus says, those who has ears, let them hear. And all this other stuff about captivity and the saints is totally Jesus's language. Oh, I don't ever read the letter Bible, but that would be totally in red. Alright, that's just an aside. Let's see what I have here. One power is killed and comes back. Okay, earlier we talked about the fatal wound to one of the heads of the beast. And we're talking about the worship of the beast, because the people are worshiping that he was supposedly brought back to life. Is it like all these end timesy movies where the Antichrist gets killed and is resurrected? I am leaning towards persuasion of my church and my pastor that no, again, not literal, it's a metaphor. They're trying to fake and put on a show of resurrection, but they can't without Jesus and God's mighty power. So what's actually going on here? The beast could be from the Middle East. Okay, this is just more speculation of where the beast is from, because there's chaos in the Middle East right now. There's a sea of a bunch of people freaking out about the conflict in the Middle East, all over the world, and someone could rise up and go, "Hello, I'm going to take care of it. We going to destroy Israel, and I'm going to be the Antichrist and stuff," without saying he's the Antichrist. What about the fatal wound, though? What about the fatal wound? I put it somewhere. I could have sworn I put it somewhere. I'm trying to find the false resurrection. No, man. Man, I don't have it. I don't have it here. Well, the gist is that I don't think one of the heads dies. I think one of the heads gets eliminated from the complete system of nations, and the news and the lies of the beast spread that one of the allies of the Antichrist died, and then the Antichrist resurrects this supposed person, but they just are a leader that just goes against the Antichrist, disappears and comes back. It comes to their evil senses, I suppose. But we have even more symbolism here. We had the beast that they worship is like a leopard, a bear, and a lion. And those all point to a book we call Daniel, a book where Daniel predicts that the empires to come, Persia, Greece, Rome, and the Antichrist nation are symbolic of animals. And if we look at all the nations against Israel that were ever against Israel even before Daniel, we get the Middle East. Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and then we got Israel in the Middle East, obviously, and other Arab nations, Mesopotamian nations, Amorites, Amalekites, Philistines, Hittites, Moabites, all in the Middle East. And people think, oh, the 7 heads and the 7 stuff. Nah, it's the 7 hills of Rome and the 10 and the 10 nations and the 10 crowns and the 10 horns. Oh, it's the papacy, and one of the kings, 5 are eliminated, 1 dies, and 8th comes. Those are the emperors of Rome. No. The reason why it leads to you thinking it's Rome is because John is using references to the Roman Empire as code, so the Roman Empire and the guards that are guarding him on Patmos and the people reading his letters between Patmos and the churches of Asia Minor won't go, ooh, he's talking about some religious goggly goop about the future. That's the reason why he's using stuff like things that would lead you to think emperors and 7 hills and evil symbols of Rome and beasts. He's trying to make it sound a little bit like the Greco-Roman mythology of the day, so the emperors don't get all, ooh, you're being disobedient, and destroy Revelation. That's the reason we have Revelation, is because the code worked. Alright, let's get on to, what do I have here on my little listy list? 11 to 14. Alright, then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns, like a lamb, and spoke like a dragon, and he exercises all authority of the first beast in the presence and in his presence, and causes the earth and those who are in it to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. He performs great signs, so that even makes fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and he deceives those who dwell in the earth by those signs which he was granted to do in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image of the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. You said it was a fake resurrection. Now it's saying this wounded beast that was healed was wounded by a sword. What? Explain yourself. Alright, here we go. Here it comes. This predicts technology, TV, live stream, and whatever happens in the future with the technology and instant news. How are people knowing that this guy supposedly died and was healed? This person rises up from amidst the nations of the earth out of nowhere, directs people to worship the beast. We're talking about the false prophet, by the way. And the people worship in the temple and build an image. Later, the image actually talks and can see and hear, unlike graven images in the Old Testament and New Testament, ancient kingdoms and nations. But how are people knowing all this is happening all at once? Because whether John realizes it, I'm not sure if he's aware of what's going on down here anymore. Whether he realized it or not, he was predicting the future of technology. And this beast can call down fire from heaven? Could that be him being able to command nuclear bombs and other bombs and just have complete control over the militaries and militias of the world? maybe, but he might actually be able to call upon strange fire, like they did in evil pagan worship ceremonies in the ancient world. But we don't know. Worship comes through the mark system. It said in here that they're getting his mark and that they are told to worship. That's why the earth and everyone on it, except the saints, are so just easily coerced and commanded to worship. That's why it's like, okay, like it seems like the worship in these passages is just instant. Oh, we're going to tell them to do this, build a temple. We're going to tell them to build an image, build an image. We're going to tell them to believe that the Antichrist was killed by the sword and was healed. They'll believe it. They'll believe he's the Messiah. The reason why it says that he was killed by a sword, fatal wound, and resurrected is because either they didn't kill him and they staged it. The sword is a symbolic spiritual symbol for him being cut off from the 7 heads of the 7 either nations or organizations because he was disobedient. Then this head came back and realized the error of his ways because he probably has the mark and he's not the actual Antichrist, he's just part of the Antichrist group. And they make it seem like a resurrection. Like there's this one end times movie where the Antichrist is just this weird creepy Russian guy. He gets shot in a United Nations meeting, and all of a sudden reality alters and he didn't get shot, he just he got saved by someone, and everyone else except this main character of the movie thinks that he didn't get shot, and this guy knows what really happened because he didn't fall for the reality swap. Like the mark of the beast might have so much power that like if the beast types into a computer or puts in like some futuristic program to alter the reality of the brain or the perception of people with the mark of the beast, all of a sudden a different reality that never happened. It's as if it happened. I don't know. They're trying to manipulate DNA and biological structures right now, and scientists are still trying to like make us immortal or live longer, which by the way the Bible predicts, because in the days of Noah they were trying to make people live longer. The Nephilim mating with females, it made people live 600 to 900 years. They're trying to make people live hundreds of years longer with these biotrippy molecular DNA manipulation stuff. No, it's true. Look it up. There's stuff. I don't have sources off the top of my head right now. But yeah, they're trying to do this stuff. So this is probably what's happening, man. They're making a different reality and uploading it to like the mark of the beasts and people, and instant brainwash. And the saints are like, no, that's not what happened. He didn't get struck by a sword. He just got cut off from the group because he was rebelling, and then he repented to the beast, and he came back. And all this, the land beast, we're talking about the false prophet, the land beast, comes like peace. Well, he says he comes from the earth instead of the sea. If we look back, the sea meant chaos. The earth usually means lush, creation, abundance, lavishness. So he's coming from an area of peace. While the wars and the people are freaking out in the Middle East and they're going nutsy nutsos, he comes and makes peace. Alright, let us finally get to 15 through 18 and we'll wrap up this crazy mark of the beast sausage in a delicious box or whatever. I just came up with that expression. Okay. And he deceived those who dwell on the earth in the sight of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image of the beast who was wounded by the sword and lived. He was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast. That image of the beast should both speak and cause as many who would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive the mark on their right hand and or on their forehead. And there is one, and that only one may buy and sell except those who have the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is the wisdom. Let who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for the number of man, the number is 666. Ooh, you said 666. Actually, I went to the mall a few days ago, and there was a phone number on the door of the mall, and in the middle of it was the number 666. It just happens to be 3 6s in the phone number, but I'm like, ooh, spooky. Okay. So here's what I think happens. They build this creepy image in the third temple. They're figuring out how to build the third temple next to the Dome of the Rock, like split the Temple Mount down the middle somehow. And what they're going to do is they're going to start worshiping and sacrificing again, red heifers. And God's going to be like, no, I'm going to use this to tell the Jews about Jesus. They're going to come to Jesus. The Antichrist is going to get all rawr and try to destroy everybody. And eventually this temple is going to be used for this image. They build the image. The beast and the Antichrist give it the ability to speak. Whether or not that's spiritual, whether or not it's like this creepy AI Jesus in Sweden, where they just make like a android artificial intelligent bot. But apparently it's going to be so cool, it's going to be so fascinating, they're going to think it's a miracle, that people are just going to be like, boop, 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 or boop. They're going to get the mark. And those are like, it's cool, but we Christian, we're not going to do any of that. They go and get killed. And in the scripture here, it says, by his breath, he kills people. I think it's just like, kill him, kill him, kill him. And the cronies that are near this like AI bot android thing just either shoot them or behead them, or if there's another futuristic way of killing someone, I don't know, maybe they just light people on. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to finish that sentence. So, God will allow the beast and the Antichrist to have power. Only God will allow this. God will allow this for only a short time, 42 months, 3.5 years. So the Antichrist doesn't even rule all 7 years. He only rules 3.5 years. He comes in the middle of the chaos. And the false prophet comes to bring peace. See, the beast will force the image making and mark receiving and worship. Will it really be forced? The people who already have the mark will just be like, okay, we did it. The people who don't have the mark will be like, oh, cool, they just made that thing talk. We're going to get the mark. Now, my pastor and my church are from the persuasion that this could be an Islamic Antichrist, or a Middle Eastern nation will be Antichrist. Now, the reason why we think it's Islam is because their religion is very Antichrist-esque, in the sense that You worship Allah or die. Or you worship and you honor Quran and you do what the eschatology of Quran says, or death to nations, death to Israel, death to America, death to anything biblical. Is Jesus in the Islamic religion? Yeah, he's just like a cool prophet of Israel, and they end up saying either everything about his story is fake or he's a cuckoo head. Not true. I mean, think about it. They're the one religion, the one faith that's like worship or die. They think Jewish people are evil, of the devil. They think Christian people are of the devil. Anyone that don't worship Allah, of the devil. I mean, think about that. Islam, they if you look at the basic gist of their mission and religion, they want to take over the world. If you convert people to Islam, if Islamic people convert a lot of people to Islam, they're rewarded with like wives and concubines in heaven and stuff. So yeah, I mean, think about that. And then the mark makes people worship. I didn't talk about that the whole video. Something about this image dooms your soul. Yeah, something about the mark dooms your soul. I've been talking about that for several videos. And I've been talking about how something in the mark either makes the false prophet or the Antichrist change and warp reality. I mean, that's what the Islamic people try to do. They warp your reality and thinking Allah or death. Although, on the other hand, Islam is so obviously anti-everything, world domination. Wouldn't that be too obvious? Okay, now we know someone from Islam's gonna be the Antichrist. Aren't we not supposed to know who the Antichrist is until he comes on the scene and somehow in the Holy Spirit we just know? Yes. But maybe it's so obvious that we think it's too obvious. Then we let our guard down. Either way, the basic gist lesson of this long exposition on Revelation 13 is, if you're in Christ, don't get the mark. You'll be doomed forever. Now we know the Antichrist rises out of chaos. The false prophet rises to cause peace. It could be Islam. All I know for certain is somewhere in the Middle East, at some point in time, I feel like we're pretty dang close. They might already be alive or not. The Antichrist is coming, and he's packing spiritual and literal heat. And we gotta be sure that we come to Christ, know his gospel, and we're in a relationship with God. Because when we're in a relationship with God, we're in the majority, and we're on the winning side, and we will be in victorious eternity forever. So that's it for now. Mic drop. See you next time for Revelation 12.